Cat the Hunter coming at you again. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really, really appreciate it. If you have been wondering where I've been for the past few weeks, months, maybe even a year or two, I have been on a little bit of a hiatus. When the pandemic started, COVID-19 started back in 2020, or we were all locked in for a little bit of time. And so I decided to return back to school. And I am in the middle of, or actually I'm on the back end, just about to complete the PhD in leadership. Focus and concentration is in criminal justice. So that is what I have been doing. That's why I have not been doing as many videos or as many interviews and things along those lines. So that's where I've been. So now that I'm kind of entering into the tailspin of this and to the end of it, I only have, if you know anything about dissertation, I've got the first 3 chapters done, 2 more chapters to go, and it's really my hope that I will have chapters 4 and 5 completed by August. That is my desire, to have my dissertation done and completed by August, and hopefully I can do my defense sometime in the beginning of September, and be complete. That's my dreams and hopes and desires and all that. So that's where I've been, and that's what I've been doing. So I want to go over something that I think that is really, really devastating. Now, my dissertation that I'm currently working on is concerning officer morale. What supervisors can do to increase officer morale. And so one of the biggest things that I've been learning and hearing and understanding from officers is the frustration that they are having, that we have had, concerning being officers, and this misinformation, miscommunication that has been going on with individuals who don't know what they're talking about. And it's going to sound like I'm taking shots at individuals in this, but I'm going to do the best that I can not to do that, because these people weren't police officers. They're not experts. They don't know the job. They know what they see in videos, and they think that because they can read something, that they understand the fullness and the extent and the scope and the width, breadth, and length and knowledge that it takes to become a police officer. And I'm here to tell you today that police officers take whatever training they have, 6 months plus. In many instances, and many of them have degrees, which mean they've gone back to get those degrees in addition to the 6 to 7 months of training that they've gotten in order to become the police officer and pass the police academy. So I'm not here to talk about that, but I want to talk about this information that's going out. And this is for the audio audience out there who is unable to see what's on the screen that I have in front of me right here. And this is from Roland Martin. Now, I like Roland Martin. I've donated to his show before. I like Roland Martin. I like the information that he's put out. I think a lot of it is good, has been good. But I think that it's sometimes that we have to hold people accountable to hold their feet to the fire, when and if they do something that I think is incorrect. And so the name of this pops up on YouTube it says Judge Shreds Asheville, North Carolina. I don't know if it's Asheville or Asheville, because there's an Asheville. Cops, Judge Shreds, and Shreds is in capital letters, Asheville, cops for disturbing is also in all caps, arrest of a black man, right, Roland Martin. Then when you look at the actual video, it says NC judge, North Carolina judge, goes off on officers for controversial arrest of a black man. So let me pull up for the video audience out there, and I'll read a little bit of the article here. I want to get to the scene here. Okay, so when you look at the article, right? So when you look at this, right, you're going to see now. When you play the Roland's video, it doesn't show where the judge rips him. So I had to search around and look for this, which is not really a problem. But this is sometimes you got to do your work. So this comes from The Root. The Root, which was formerly a particularly black magazine, but now I believe it's owned by persons who are non-black, who aim and target their articles towards the black community. And this says, judge goes off on Asheville. I'm going to say Asheville. I don't know if that's pronounced right. Asheville officers for controversial arrest of black man. Almost verbatim of what Roland Martin wrote in his, right? The judge said, the Asheville officers who pinned down a black man with a broken arm acted inappropriately. Okay. So there's video here, but I'm not going to play this particular video because this is cell phone video, and we'll get to this when we play Roland Martin's piece. But here's what the judge said, right? The black man, this is was updated 5/25/23, and I'm recording this a few days later. The black man violently arrested by 3 Asheville NC officers appeared before the judge in a bond hearing, according to the Asheville Citizens Times. While bringing down a hefty bond, the judge also ridiculed the officers involved for their actions. Thusly, I am titling this "Why People Do Not Want to Become Police Officers." And I'm writing this because this is an article that is aimed and targeted at black people. The magazine, or the online magazine, it's aimed and targeted at black people. And I find it very, very disturbing that this is a continuing trend that is going on. We need black people to become police officers. We need good people of all shapes, colors, sizes to become police officers. But when you write things that are aimed at a particular minority population who already has a terrible history with the police, I am acknowledging all that. I am acknowledging all these facts that have happened historically to persons of African descent, including myself. I understand that. However, we still need these individuals to take on and don the badge and the gun. Continuing back with the article, anyone who thinks this was handled appropriately by Mr. Whitmire, or for that fact by the officers, is sadly mistaken, said Buncombe County District Court Judge Edwin Clontz. Now, there are some judges and some lawyers who were once police officers who have become judges. I don't know this guy's history. I don't know. But I'm going to walk you through this and tell you why he is absolutely wrong as in his assessment of what happened. It was handled properly by the police. It was not handled properly by Mr. Whitmire. As you can check out a different. I'll try to put this up on every platform here. It was handled on every single. It was handled correctly by the officers, right? Not by Mr. Whitmire. And I did a video called "Just Pull Over," right? The judge said when the officers grabbed 27-year-old Devin Whitmire, they didn't give him a chance to comply to the commands by pulling his arms across his face and neck while he was handcuffed, per the report. So they were dragging his face, they were dragging his arms across his neck and hands while he was handcuffed. The judge also signed off on a public release of the body cam footage. The officers have not been indicted on any charges related to the arrest, nor, and this is me talking, nor should they be. However, Whitmire faces assault charges, including a count of assault on a government official, inflicting a serious injury. I'm not sure if that charge actually fits, unless they were seriously injured. He's being held on a whopping $85,000 bond, which Judge Clontz says was more than appropriate given Whitmire's charges. And then it goes on to talk about what happened to him, right? So Whitmire, was 27, was arrested for an open warrant communicating threats. The police department said that when he approached Whitmire, he initially gave them a false name. After confirming his identity, which we'll see in the video, the officers attempted to arrest him despite him wearing a sling for a broken arm. That means nothing. I'm gonna tell you that means nothing. And I'm speaking this as an officer who was there in the trenches trying to make arrests. People will lie. They had to confirm his identity. People will lie, particularly twins. They will often and almost always use each other's identity. They tried to force his arms behind his back and threw him onto the ground. Can't y'all just back up so I can get my gun off me? Listen to what, this is a quotation coming from Whitmire. Can't y'all just back up so I can get my gun off me, Whitmire said, per the authorities. However, Whitmire's fiance, Carrie Spiegel, told the Citizen Times, I thought I heard him say, I don't have it on me. That's not what the man said, and we will get into that. So a fight ensues, crowd gathers, and you can hear people who don't know what's going on telling them to get off of him. This is, and this continues to go on. You can read this. You can go over to the root, look for the article. Judge goes off on Asheville officers for controversial arrest of black man. Right. Okay. So that's what's going on there. And let's see where we're at here. Okay. All right. So we're not going to show that one right now. We're going to get to Martin. We're going to roll Roland Martin's clip. We're going to roll Roland Martin's clip, and we're going to see exactly, what's going on here. It's going to play a little bit of the video. I know for the audio audience out there, you're not going to be able to see it, but just take a listen as we go through this.
What took place?
All right, so here's what's up. So they're confirming it right now, but based on your tattoos, we know who you are, and you do have a warrant for your arrest. So that's confirmed.
Okay, so I know the audio is a little bit hard, and there's going to be better audio. This audio right here is coming from his girlfriend's cell phone camera, so you can hear the wind blowing and things like that. I am going to play the audio from the body cams of the officers who are there, and that's going to be a little bit longer. We'll break that down. So just stay tuned for the ride here. But so what she just said, there's a female officer talking. She said, we're confirming it right now, and based on the tattoos, we're going to place you under arrest because you have a warrant for communicating threats. I don't know what exactly that means in the state of North Carolina. Probably, either he was texting somebody through text messages, threatening someone, or let the voicemail, the email. I don't know what he did in order to communicate the threats. I don't know what the statute requirements are for that. So that's what was going on right here. Now a fight's going to ensue. Okay, right there he says, can't y'all just back up so I can get my gun off me? And now the officer's going to say, where's the gun?
Where's your gun at?
He says, don't worry about that. And the officer say, no. Now, once you let me explain this, and I'll go through this again. When we watch the better body cam video, is what happens is that he is telling officers that he has a gun. He says, can't y'all back up off me so I can get my gun? Now, you tell police officers that our antenna, our angst, our anxiety, our whatever you want to say goes through the roof, right? You told us they had a gun. Presumably, they have information concerning this individual. They usually deal with the police officers, know their communities. They usually deal with the same person over and over again. They know his history, and now he's just communicated he has a gun. And all this is going to become more relevant as we go on through the video. So just stay tuned, sit back, relax, get your popcorn out as we go through this. So he says, no. The officer is saying that. No. We're going to, and I'll rewind it just a little bit here so you can get a full sense of this. And now the fight's going to ensue because he's not going to comply. Now you can't see it in video, in audio land there. However, he is wearing a sling, but he's moving it around, and we'll see this. He's moving it around. So I have no problem with the officers indicating and believing that he has full mobility and has no pain or any type of debilitating problem with his arm. Back it up just a little bit here so we can kind of catch it from going on.
Where's your gun at?
Yo.
You're gonna stay back there.
Can I get his phone? That's my fiance. Can I get his phone?
You just said you got a gun on.
He doesn't.
Partner, you don't get tased.
Stop. Can y'all stop?
Let me. I don't know what's going on here. Let me refresh this and see if we can get a better way to go here.
It matters to us.
I got a lot of windows open.
He doesn't.
Partner, you don't get tased.
Stop. Can y'all stop? He's not doing nothing. He's not. His arm is broke, so if y'all fuck with his arm, I swear to God. I got all this on tape. Yo, what the fuck? He's not doing. Why are you pulling his hair and shit? Why is y'all doing that shit? Y'all is doing something. It's okay, babe. I got it all on video. I got it all on video, babe. I got you.
All right, folks, joining me from Asheville, North Carolina, is activist Michael Hayes. So, Michael, here's the first thing. Why was he arrested?
So, he was arrested because there was a warrant taken out on him for communicating a threat.
Okay. So that requires 3 cops to essentially tackle him and bring him to the ground.
Yes, Roland, it does. Because they didn't just walk up to him and just tackle him, right? This is the narrative that we're getting, and we're getting bad information. I know, again, I understand the history we have. I understand that there's been movements and protests. I understand that what happened to George Floyd was tragic. I understand that Michael Brown. I understand all the individuals that we can name off. I get it. But we had to give clear, direct answers and do some actual down the middle journalism. And yes, it does require that. And I say that because of the snarkiness that I sense coming from Roland Martin.
No, so that is the reason that we had started, having these conversations.
I have no idea who this individual is. I don't think they ever flash his name on screen. If they do, I'll do it. I don't know if he's an attorney for the family. I don't know, or he's a councilman. I don't know who he is.
And protesting is, a lot of people.
Well, as I said, it's Michael L. Hayes, executive director, something. In health, wellness, and injustice collective member. I'll try to read. When you put this stupid thing up here, when I put the pause up, right, it covers the letters, so I can't read everything of it. But some kind of committee member of Justice Collective, something like that. He's not. Umoja.
Want to talk about what happened prior to him getting arrested. What we want to address is the fact that there was no de-escalation tactics used. There were illegal holds used.
Okay. So we'll get into all this in a second here. De-escalation tactics, we'll get into that. So this is what the complaint is that there were no de-escalation tactics and all that. So again, de-escalation, we'll get into that.
Particularly when he was on the ground. They do have holds that are supposed to be used if you are in danger of being, shot, or of the officers being in danger of being harmed. That wasn't the case. They also they love to talk. They want to keep talking about what happened prior to. So they said that he stated that he had a gun. So they felt justified in approaching that. But we all know that could have been de-escalated by asking the question, asking for a search, because communicating the threat warrant, even though it might have been warranted, it still didn't call for the assault that happened.
Well, it did, because he asked them for it. And he said, y'all don't need to know about that. So they did ask where it was, right? So this is the bad information that's coming out here.
To Mr. Whitmire.
So this judge weighs in by saying, what the hell?
It's kind of a two-way street, because even though he did put blame on Devin, he also put blame on the officers as well. He did state that both sides were. So regardless of what they say about Devin is not the professional. Devin is not the officer. Devin has not had training. Devin has not had de-escalation training. And then, speaking on behalf of his mother, there are other mitigating factors that they didn't even address, and that they could have handled the situation much different than it happened.
Well, I mean, it goes to show you what often happens with a lot of these cops when it involves somebody black. I mean, they would immediately resort to force. I've seen a lot of white folks lose their mind, act a fool, yell, holler, cuss, and scream, and the cops will sit there and say, "Sir, I need you to calm down.
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, I need you to calm down." So it's the juxtaposition is amazing when you see a lot of these videos.
So, Brother Martin, here in Asheville, I hate to say this, we were surprised, but not surprised. Asheville, which is located in Buncombe County, when you look at the fact that we are only 6% black, but we are 33% of the population. I think that kind of it shows you how they like to address historically oppressed communities. So my father used to say, if you don't know your history, if you don't know what happened, you don't know where you're going. If you don't know where you've been, you don't know where you're going. And they'll continue to do the same thing. This has happened in Asheville before. The brutality from the police, the violence from the police has happened before. And we can talk about, the structure and the system. But I think as a community, it is imperative that we say something now, because, they love to keep bringing up Mr. Whitmire's past, the allegations, the things like that. So as we address what's going on now to prevent what's going on later, we're talking about coming up with solutions that are in a collective manner, in a collaborative manner, and really to address the fact police have biases, they have lack of training, and we understand that that's a state thing that we have to recognize that some of these things have to happen in the state. But as far as our community goes here in Asheville, North Carolina, we just want to make sure that our community pulls together. We utilize, the information that we already have.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there because it becomes. So he said something that I want to talk about is this de-escalation training and all that. But before we get to it, I want to play, if I can. I want to get to. Let's get to the actual video. Let's get to the video here so we can check out the video and determine exactly what happened. Right. Okay, so now this says that officers. Let me try to shrink this down here so we can. Oh, no, that's not what I wanted. Okay, let's do this. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna go to YouTube here. I want to make this as big as we can here. Okay. All right. So we got this. Hopefully it's working nice and well here. So let's take a look at. What happened on this particular day. Now, this comes from the Asheville PD, right? The full video. This comes from the city of Asheville. This is them putting together this presentation that they gave in order to release this body cam footage. Sometimes I think it's a good idea to do all this words and all that, and sometimes I don't, because, and the reason that I don't think it's always a good idea is because it seems as if you're trying to paint the narrative and letting the spin in order to spin it towards your favor. And I think that sometimes you ought to let the video speak for itself. However, this is what many cities have decided to do, so we'll go with the presentation that they gave us. This is going to be body cam footage from them. So here they are. Here they are. Right, officers were familiar with Devin Whitmire. He had been arrested how many times? 20. Can you all say 24 times? He had been arrested 24 times in Buncombe County. I don't know how I'm saying that. Buncom as in Michael, B as in boy, echo. Buncombe County prior to his arrest on May 13th. Previous charges include robbery with a dangerous firearm, assault on a government official, probably punched another police officer before, assault on emergency personnel, probably that's either a nurse in an emergency room setting, it's a paramedic on the side of the road, or it's a firefighter. Or it could have been another police officer. Those that would include those persons. Assault by pointing a gun. Assault on a female. That's a charge? That's a ridiculous charge. Assault. Is there a charge for assault on a male? Anyway. Assault with a deadly weapon and assault inflicting serious bodily injury. This is the man's charges. And at least 2 times before he had assaulted either police officers or those who were operating in some type of government or official emergency room capacity, right? So this is who they're dealing with, right? So we'll play it from here a little bit here. We'll try to get going. Okay, body worn camera number 1, officer number 1. Officer number 1 interviewed Whitmire's identical twin brother on the night of the May 8th call for service. And there's other information on this I'm not going to get to because I want to get through the heart of what I'm talking about. Remember, what we're talking about here is why people, in particular black people, don't want to become police officers anymore. When officer number 1 approached Whitmire, he lied about his identity and claimed to be his twin brother. Happened all the time. I'm going to tell you it happens. Every police officer has always dealt with that. When asked by the officer if Whitmire remembered him, he said no, indicating that he is not who he claimed to be. In other words, he must have, I believe the other is Devin, his twin brother's Tevin. If he was really Tevin, then he would have remembered speaking to the officer, which told the officer, no, this ain't him, because this guy would remember talking to me just the other day, right? Whitmire's left arm was in a sling. Whitmire told officers that the arm was not broken, contrary to media reports. Again, so this is information that's being put up on the screen here. After officers positively identified him as Devin Whitmire, they attempted to take him into custody for the open warrant. At this time, Whitmire said, "Can y'all back up so I can get my gun off me?" Officers attempted to control Whitmire's hands to prevent him from reaching for a gun. He then assaulted an officer, and we will see that in a few moments here. He vigorously resisted officers' attempts to search him for a weapon, even after he was on the ground and placed in handcuffs. Whitmire kicked and spat on the officers as they attempted to detain him and search for a weapon that he said that he had and that his prior history told him was probably an accurate statement. Okay, so now I'm going to fast forward just a little bit, right, because we hear the officer. Well, maybe we'll play it here. We'll play the officer's audio. I was going to fast forward to the officers arriving on scene.
Black male, white shirt, looks to be camo colored shorts, currently wearing a sling.
Black male, white shirt, camo pants, camo shorts, appears to be wearing a sling. That's exactly who he's going to pull up.
David 45 around, 10-4.
Attempt to make contact now. Is it Whitmire?
Devin.
What's that? Devin? Tevin.
I don't have my credentials, but I got my band right.
Roland, do you recognize me?
No, sir.
13th of Livingston.
Do you have ID on you?
Nah,
Because I know you have a twin.
David 41 more testing.
Okay. Did you talk to somebody over across from Lee Garden about a couple days ago?
1837.
No. Do you have ID on you?
No.
No. Is there any way to verify that you're...
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, what's the problem?
Okay.
Is my brother doing something crazy?
Were
Okay. Sit tight, person, just a second.
You spoke to me about a week ago. Do you remember this?
When you pull me over,
I didn't even pull you over.
then you didn't speak to me.
Okay. Wow.
So he's not remembering the conversation that he had. So the officer obviously remembers that he spoke to a guy whose name is Tevin. And if he's saying his name is Tevin, then he would have remembered the exact encounter. So we're going to see, something that officers often look for, and that is, slowness of speech and looking around and lack of eye contact. And this is all indicators that we look for to inform us of deception. I'm not going to give away the whole prize here, but those are some ideas that we're looking for.
That makes me feel like you're lying to me because I spoke to Tevin.
Okay.
Okay. You don't remember that?
When would you speak to my twin if
You're
said I'm Tevin?
You're Tevin, so you...
I'm Tevin, that's what I'm saying. Like, what, like...
No. Where did did you just come today?
Yeah, I'm just walking from down there. That's what I'm saying. Like, what's going on?
Well, we're trying to find Devin, so...
He's in Lee Walker Heights, doing all that bullshit. That's why I'm not up there.
Okay. Okay, well, as long as you're Tevin, I'm cool.
Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna lie to you.
It's fine. It's not that I'm saying you're lying.
I'm trying to figure out what's going on, because he was answering his phone at this point.
We need to find Devin. That's it. Once we prove that you are Tevin, then I'll cut you loose, okay?
Hey, you seen my brother Devin out here? The police talking about he up here. I'm trying to figure out what's going on.
I don't need people telling Devin that we're looking for him, okay?
Tell you looking for Devin?
I don't want people to know that, okay?
So why is somebody stopping me?
Because I thought you were Devin. That's why. That's why I'm out here. I'm looking for Devin, not for Devin.
Can I speak to y'all? Whoever y'all got in charge?
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I'm sitting right here.
You guess.
46,
I'm right here.
Okay, that's fine. I said,
right
as long as you're Tevin, man, you're cool. I'm good with that.
No, cause I need your badge number at this point. Cause you see, that's the hospital put credentials on.
Yeah, I see that. I see that. I just want to.
Hospital's putting credentials on his arm means nothing. And so I know the visual can't see it. You can obviously go to my page here. It's going to be on LMH Consulting channel. You can go over to that LMH Consulting channel, and you can see he's moving his arms, putting it underneath his arm. He's got his arm in a sling. His left arm is in a sling. He's putting it on his right arm, crossing his arms, moving it around, holding things in it, right? No indication of any pain or discomfort or anything like that.
Make sure that you're
Adam 26 and
the
4.
person you're saying you are.
I'm at the top.
Can I ask what you did to your arm?
Me?
Yeah.
Drinking right here. Like, there's nothing wrong with it.
You were drinking and what, you fell or something?
Yes, sir. A scratch. I bought this from there, and they said there was nothing wrong, but
Okay.
that's all I wanted to know.
Gotcha. Okay.
Do you have any tattoos on your upper arm here?
Yes, sir.
What are
Philippians
they?
4:13.
I'm sorry?
Philippians 4:13.
Okay. How about the other one?
I got new tattoos. I just told you. So what's going on?
So you've got Monique right there. No, on this arm.
That's a new one.
Okay.
Me and my twin have the same tattoos.
Okay.
So what's going on?
Do you have your ID on you?
No, right here on my armband. But my mother's not answering because of what my brother's doing. So it's like somebody just ran down on me.
Communications Baker 21 Charlie 22.
Do you have any tattoos that your brother doesn't have?
We're twins. We get all our tattoos the same.
Civil disturbance in the
Is
area.
there anything to identify you that's not Devin, other than that wristband?
Garbage cans.
Is there anything else that we can use?
Yeah, I can. I used to stay right here.
Yeah, it doesn't help.
I'm talking about mail with my name on it.
What other tattoos do you have on your arm?
Which means I have a lot of tattoos.
Okay,
I have Philippians 4:13 on my chest. That's
what else do you have on your arm?
With John 3:16, like my twin.
Okay, what's on this up there?
Why are y'all questioning me? I want somebody to come out here.
What do you mean you want somebody?
I want somebody to come out here. Whoever y'all got in charge, 'cause I don't like
Okay, well
this.
that's me. Okay, that's why I'm trying.
Is this your car, ma'am?
Nope.
Okay. Well,
Okay, so she's coming out here leaning on somebody's car. I don't know if it's his car or what, but they're both leaning on somebody's car. And this is this video of her. The previous video that we listened to was the one that she records, showing all this type of stuff in all that. So we're gonna hear a much clearer. I want to reach for my gun, or excuse me, I want to take my gun out. You know, can y'all back up and all that? So just pay attention.
we'll talk to you in a second.
It's on the outside though.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. What's going on?
Do you have any tattoos on this upper arm?
I'm not answering no more questions. What's going on? You're not telling me what's going on.
Well, right now we think that you were possibly a guy that has warrants. Okay.
Well, I'm telling
That's
you
why
I
we're trying to
don't.
determine that you're not.
That's what I'm telling you.
That's why I'm trying to use your
45 Baker
tattoos.
42.
Because you both have files, and you both have tattoos listed on your files.
But that's what I'm saying. I ain't
Civil
doing nothing.
disturbance in the area 50
So how long ago did you
Maryland
get the
Avenue.
Monique tattoo?
Complaints advising two
Probably
white
about a year
males
ago.
are verbal outside the business. Been going
you
on
don't
for
have-
about 10 minutes.
what
Nothing
tattoos were-
physical
you
at
said
this
Philippians
time,
was on your
and
chest.
No weapons seen.
You got John 3:16 over
I'm not
there.
answering no more questions. What's up?
All right, so here's what's up. So they're confirming it right now, but based on your tattoos, we know who you are, and you do have an open warrant for your arrest. So if that's confirmed,
So now they're about to make this arrest here. So here we go.
then we'll be taking you down to jail tonight.
Okay, well, can y'all back up so I can get my gun off you?
Where's your gun at?
Don't worry about bombs.
Okay, I'm gonna rewind this. Can y'all back up off me so I can get my gun off me? Then the officer says, "Where's your gun at?" Right? We heard this a little bit in the last video. I'm gonna back it up so you can play it, so you can hear it again. Okay, now this is arousing. Antenna should be up. This is something that the police officers train for, to listen for, right? To do all this, right? This is why you can't see it in the audio land out there. But this is type of the defensive stances that they're taking, is that this individual has right, he's supposed to have his arm in a sling, and they're taking defensive postures and motions before, as they get up close to him, right?
Warrant for your arrest. So if that's confirmed, then we'll be taking you down to jail tonight.
Okay, well, can y'all back up so I can get my gun off you?
Where's your gun at?
Don't worry about bombs.
No.
If y'all,
this point, though.
Relax. We're not gonna fight with the gun in the boat.
No, that's what I'm telling you.
I know. Hey.
Hey, y'all weak as fuck.
1040.
That's what I'm saying.
He's not. His arm is broke.
Give me your freaking hand. Down.
Oh, this is fun.
He's not doing right.
Put your hands behind your back.
Why are y'all doing that
There's a
shit?
spit right there.
Put your hands behind
You don't die, bitch.
He didn't do nothing.
Where's the gun at?
That's what I'm telling you. They got one, nigga. You just said no, fuck, I didn't.
He doesn't fucking. I have the whole thing.
I ain't got no motherfucking gun, and if you slam my head on this concrete,
Relax.
No, relax. Man, I ain't got no fucking gun. That's a swing. If you need me to move, let me know.
His arm is broke and y'all fucking. It's alright, babe. I got an arm.
I'm not tripping about it.
Is he good?
I got you.
I'm not tripping about it.
Don't keep standing on us.
I'm a kid still, yo. You slam my head on the ground.
I got an arm.
Where's the gun at? Devin.
He doesn't have a gun. I tried telling y'all that the first fucking time.
Ma'am, you need to step back some.
Stop. Relax. Devin, relax.
And this is why, this distraction, this is why there's so many laws that so many states have been passing about being a certain amount of feet away and interfering, right? You should not and you cannot be distracting police officers when they're trying to do their job. Just wrestling with the man. You want their full focus to be on what they're doing. Even if you're the loved one, you want their full focus to be on what they're doing so they can pay attention. So they don't do anything by accident. So stop talking to these individuals. Stop talking to the officers. If anything, tell your boyfriend to comply. Listen, just put your hands behind your back and we'll sue him later. That's all you should be saying. Stop it.
Relax, Devin. Okay.
Keep it on the side.
Yeah, I know.
Side is fine.
Relax, Devin. Relax.
I got an arm.
Relax, Devin.
You ain't coming up, man. Bro, you better get your ass kicked.
You said that you ain't got no gun.
Hey, he grabbed my dick.
Relax.
Nigga, you just grabbed my dick.
We're looking for the gun. We're looking for the gun.
I told you that. The fuck?
Stop. Relax. We're not trying to hurt you, okay?
Nigga, I got a fucking torn torn muscle.
Stop.
Right now, he don't
Where's
have
this?
no fucking
Stop.
gun.
We're still fighting.
I'm recording all this shit. They talk about he got a gun.
Relax. Relax, okay?
I'm gonna shoot with you.
He ain't got no fucking gun.
Relax, okay?
Let's go with him.
I ain't talking about resisting.
Get the
You're
fuck up
spitting
off
on me,
him.
dude.
Why is you?
Cause there ain't no fucking gun.
No, get up off him like that. Why the fuck is you on him like that?
Because he's still fighting.
He's not fighting. He is on the ground.
Ma'am,
What the fuck you mean he's fighting?
Please stop.
He's not fighting.
He just spit. I mean, you have it on video.
He's not. Okay, he spit, but he ain't fighting. Why the fuck is you
Talking about I
on
got
him
a
like
gun.
Okay, he spit, but he ain't fighting. Okay, lady. Sit down and be quiet.
Why is you on him like that? Get the fuck up off him.
Devin, please stop.
Get off him.
Please stop.
Man, no, you about to give me that word.
Get the fuck
You
up
know
off
you
him.
about to give me that word.
Like that.
Go over on the other side.
Why the fuck is you on him like that? Why is you on him like that? He ain't fucking
Relax.
No, he ain't fucking on you. He ain't got nothing. Why the fuck is you on him like that? He ain't got nothing on him.
What do you do?
Now there was a camera angle that went by very briefly, in which I would assume is what the judge was talking about. Remember, the judge said something along the lines of, what did the judge say? The judge said that when the officers grabbed 27-year-old Devin Whitmire, they didn't give him a chance to comply. We saw that that's not true. They did give him a chance to comply. Asked him where the gun was. He's talking about, nah, I'm not. Don't worry about it. All this kind of stuff. Try to give him a chance. You're not going to sit there and argue with people. We're not going to bring tulips and daisies and flowers to individuals who claim they have guns. We're not going to do that, right? To the commands, again, didn't give him a chance to comply to their commands by pulling his arms across his face and neck while he was handcuffed, per the report. The judge also signed off, right? So I don't know what the judge was watching, but that's not what happened in this particular case. We did see, now there's a crowd gathering outside. We did see the an officer's arm around the neck, shoulder region, trapezius muscle shoulder region of Devin, but that was in an effort to control him because he kept trying to get up, even though he's handcuffed, or it appears to be that he's handcuffed. He kept trying to get up. Handcuffed. Let me say this: handcuffed does not mean controlled. They may be handcuffed, and it is a form of control, but it does not mean the full-fledged, full scope of being controlled. They are controlling, but not have him controlled. Otherwise, he would not be continue to be fighting. He would not be able to get up, not be attempting to get away and escape.
Where's your gun? We're not choking him. We're not choking him.
Now, these officers, he's still fighting and trying to get up. They are so worried, and rightfully so. I'm not saying that this is not a big deal. They're so worried about the whole George Floyd situation and telling him that they're not choking, that they're paying attention to what he's saying. They're paying attention to what the crowd is saying, rather than focus on what they're doing, and that is detaining, controlling, cuffing, and finding this weapon if he indeed had one.
Devin, come on, buddy. Stop. All right. I got his legs. Devin, please.
Body-worn camera officer number 1. The following is a portion of the previous video that has been slowed and highlighted. It shows that Whitmire assaulting an officer as the officers attempt to take him into custody.
Where's your gun at?
Don't worry about it, but I'm saying if y'all
At this point, no.
Relax. We're not gonna fight with the gun involved.
No, that's what I'm saying. Hey, y'all, we can.
Officers repeatedly asked Whitmire to stop resisting. Whitmire continued to resist officers until he was placed into a patrol car.
Look at y'all on him like this.
Guys, back
No
up.
weapons.
Bingo.
No weapons. I ain't gonna touch you.
Where's our car?
He ain't got no weapons.
Hey, can I get my hand?
What's up? We are not trying to hurt you.
Get the fuck up off of him.
Let's get into that car.
Which one?
Hey, Jake, get your arms off his neck.
Listen, tell me what I gotta do and wait for something to call me.
Get off of him.
Y'all about to give me that fucking word.
Relax.
Devin, stop. Devin, stop.
I can't move.
Hey, guys.
It don't take all that to do that. Y'all doing too much. Y'all doing too much.
He just assaulted me.
Y'all do you say you been assaulted him? Let's go.
Relax.
I'm glad that they got that lady out of there quick because I'm pretty sure I almost would have arrested. A media outlet used this still frame from a cell phone video accompanied by the headline, "White Asheville police officers pin black man by the neck." Right? So we see a rapidly evolving event and charge that is going on quickly, in which the arm might have gone. Well, obviously, at some point it did, but they got this particular still from the cell phone video, right? The newspapers, media outlets are simply in it to make a profit and to sell pictures and to sell articles and to make sure that they're. Below is the still frame from the cell phone video, synchronized with officers' body-worn camera footage. so we can see that it probably crossed their officer's arm position between Whitmire's head and pavement, right? Trying to make sure that his arm. We can see that it's there on the pavement, right? So, so this is the officer repositioned her arm, supported her weight by placing her hand on the pavement. Is not applying pressure to Whitmire's neck.
Stay back. Step back. Ma'am. Step back. Stop. All right. Get the fuck out the way. I got his leg. So I back up, got his upper body.
Less than 1 second after the original still frame seen in the media, Whitmire's left hand, Whitmire lifts his head, indicating he was not pinned by the neck. As Whitmire lifts his head and continues to resist, the officer pushes him back down.
Get them back.
As the cell phone camera is obscured, the officer can be seen maintaining her weight on her right hand, which is on the pavement.
Stop fighting. All right, no, you're gonna have to raise up. Raise up in 2 seconds. Stop fighting. Stop fighting.
Hey, just relax.
Stop fighting us. Get on my own.
You need to get up the
Okay, so that's the video from that. I'm not going to play any more of that. You guys can go watch there's only about another minute and a half or so of video from this particular thing, right? So this is, and I'm glad, and I am glad that that these individuals from the city did do their due diligence in trying to show what actually happened, rather than the video that was. Rather than just the cell phone video, and rather than just this individual idea. So let me. I want to talk. Last point I want to talk about is this idea of de-escalation, and I want to talk about this idea of de-escalation, what it means, and all that type of thing, right? Because the judge said that they should have been they did not engage in any type of de-escalation tactics or techniques. They just went straight. It seems as if the judge believes that they went straight for tackling individuals. So Roland Martin indicated that he had tackled this individual, and they just 3 cops. Craziness. Again, they went through the history of this individual. I'm sure that it comes up on their MDTs, the motor data terminals. I'm sure that it comes up on their computers. I'm sure that it's probably been radioed across. I did not listen to the full extent of all that, and I certainly did not read the motor data terminal to know what the officers knew and what they was wanted for, and they knew they had a warrant and all this kind of thing. I'm going off of on the force that was used at a particular time. And yes, many times that there is times when you should know, and all officers will know, the propensity of individuals to use violence in the past. Their arrest history and arrest record matters, and it matters for a reason. So let's take a look at this, right? This is from the DOJ, right? The Officers of Justice Programs, De-escalation Training, Safer Communities and Safer Law Enforcement Officers. So I kind of just Googled around for de-escalation training, and I wanted to hear about what goes on here, right? So we can all get a sense of what we're talking about here, right? So this article is from September 6th, 2022. Not 9-10 months ago or so as I record this. Depending on who you ask, de-escalation training is either a miracle cure or a 4-letter word. As high-profile, deadly confrontations between law enforcement officers and civilians continue to generate widespread public concern, de-escalation training has been hailed as a solution for seemingly intractable problem. Police officials and policymakers across the political spectrum have embraced de-escalation training as a key to safer interactions between police and the public. But for some law enforcement officers, de-escalation training is a loaded word. When they hear this, what they hear is, "You're teaching me to hesitate," and that's going to get me killed, said Robert Engel, a professor of criminal justice at the University of Cincinnati. We go into and implement this, and we have to call it something else. I don't know what that means. We go in, this is a quotation, we go in to implement this, and we have to call it something else. Oh, this is this is Robert Engel saying this. You try de-escalation training. Engel, a nationally respected criminologist, had conducted years of research on de-escalation training and its role in law enforcement. What she found early on surprised her. Despite the conflicting claims and strong emotions, very little was proven and consistent in de-escalation training. There weren't many standards regarding what de-escalation training should teach or how it should be implemented, and absolutely no studies examining whether or not it worked. Engel, who's worked on de-escalation training, is supported in part by grants from the Bureau of Justice Administration, the BJA, set out to find the answers. And while de-escalation training is not a cure-all, it can be applied in every situation. A groundbreaking study by Engel found that de-escalation training can dramatically reduce injuries among civilians and officers alike. I was surprised and thrilled what we found a reduction in injuries, Engel said in a recent interview. As a social scientist, most of the studies we do don't find enough evidence to show anything. But in this case, I was really surprised by the size of the finding. Engel first began focusing on de-escalation training 7 years ago when her career took an unexpected and highly unusual turn. Although she spent her entire career in academia, right? Here's another person who never spent any time in a badge, right? She was asked to take charge of the campus police department at the University of Cincinnati at a time of crisis. So here's this academic, doesn't know anything about policing, is asked to take over the University of Cincinnati at a time of crisis. In July 2015, a University of Cincinnati campus police officer fatally shot a black motorist named Samuel DuBose during a traffic stop. A public furor ensued, and the officer who shot DuBose, Ray Tansing, was charged with murder. 2 trials ended with hung juries, and in 2017, charges against Tansing were dropped. I remember that vividly, and I was disgusted to know that they were dropped. Shortly after the shooting, the university president asked Engel to develop a plan to reform the campus police force. She was stunned when the president asked her to implement her proposed changes as the head of the agency. I'm a consultant, Engel said. I had not been a police officer, but it's important that we get this right. So while continuing to serve on the university faculty, she also began attending emotional public hearings and overseeing efforts to change campus police processes and procedures. One of the items high on her agenda was de-escalation training. I wasn't going to ask our officers to do something unless we were confident in it, Engel said. She was surprised by what she found and did not find. Although a variety of consultants were offering de-escalation training to police departments, the courses varied widely. There was no general agreement in law enforcement about what the concepts should be included in de-escalation training or how they should be taught. There was no academic research on whether any variety of de-escalation training actually protected the public. Engel soon discovered that many uniformed officers were skeptical of de-escalation training because it contracted some of the basic tenets they learned. In particular, I'm going to tell you what tenets they absolutely went against. And that is the fact that this individual in this video that we just analyzed was armed or claimed to be armed and was refusing to you're not going to stand there arguing with someone. Where is it at? Hey man, come on man, please. Hey, listen, what exactly do you say at this precise moment? This man had a criminal history and record. That's number one. Number two, he had already sensed and attempted to obfuscate, to delay, he was looking around, not giving eye contact. These are all items that police officers are trained to use when they're looking for in order to assess truth and whether or not someone's going to fight with them or flee from them. His arm was in a sling, yet he was using it, showing it, and clearly had no indices of pain or anything along those lines, right? He had full mobility within his arm, despite it being in a sling. Deception is here. He's deceiving about who he was. Didn't remember having a conversation with officer was using the sling as a form of deception. All of this is deception. All of this is what we train police officers to be mindful of when they are doing whatever they're doing in attempting to confront someone who may be hostile. And so you want officers to, yes, to delay, as the officers were concerned about. You want them to delay, bring flowers. What exactly do you say at those particular times? Hey, listen, why don't you just calm down? Why don't you relax? Why don't you do this? Put this down. Listen, get off your phone. We can talk about all the different types of things to say. We can have ideas about showing hands. We can have all these types of tactics that we can offer to officers. But as the article goes on to talk about, there is no general consensus about what is going to work in almost, you name a high percentage. Let's go with 51% of the cases. We're not going to find that. We're not going to find it. Engel soon discovered that many uniformed officers were skeptical. Patrol officers were taught to handle the situation quickly so that it wouldn't get worse. Engel said, go in fast, use the amount of force you need so things won't get out of control. Completely agree with it. Completely agree with that statement. This is what we taught. This is what I taught. Go in there, take control of the situation. You don't allow people to start looking around, looking away, walking away from you, digging their hands in their pockets, wanting to get into the car, wanting to walk away from you. That tells the individual that they are in control. When you don't take control of the situation and they start moving and talking and walking away and sitting down and standing up and doing what you're not telling them to do, it tells that individual that you are not in control, that they are in control. And when they believe they're in control, they believe that your authority is nothing, has been lessened. By contrast, de-escalation training incorporates tactics that are employed by special operations units, such as SWAT teams, that take a very different approach to handling hostage situations and other potentially violent situations. Why is their techniques and tactics different? Well, because they're usually negotiating from a hidden position. They may be having a phone call from within a command post. They're not face-to-face with individuals. They don't know, they're not facing the potential that their suspect may be armed, and even if they are armed, they have the presence of time and space on their hands, where officers do not have time and space in between them, right? This is why they approach from certain angles. It's why they try to surround their individuals. It's why they try to attempt to distract them. This is all the techniques that we have learned, and you want officers to put all this on the back burner because of some unproven methodology. These officers were taught to use time, distance. I didn't even read this part. Right, here we go. These officers were taught to use time, distance, and cover to their advantage, Engel said. For patrol officers, time was viewed as the more time you give the suspect, the more danger you're in. Absolutely. I really didn't read all this. I'm reading it right now. De-escalation training teaches that officers think about the use of force in different ways. Instead of can I use force, the question becomes, should I use force? That's a quotation from Engel. After she stepped down as the head of the campus police force, her work on de-escalation training broadened in scope. She worked with several national law enforcement organizations who hammered out a model use of force policy that is being implemented by agencies across the country. She also joined with the Louisville, Kentucky Police Department to conduct a rigorous evaluation of de-escalation training provided to officers. She was pleased to find that in Louisville, de-escalation training reduced use of force incidents by 28% and citizen injuries by 26%. These are not overwhelming numbers. 100 times that the officers go out there and potentially force using situations, only 28% of them, only 28% of the time they were using force. That means in a whole 78% of the time that they, or excuse me, 78, no, that's not right. 72% of the time they're using force. She was shocked to discover that officer injuries were reduced by an even larger margin by 36%, right? None of this is really overly impressive, right? There's still 64% of the time, 72% of the time, there's force being used and persons are being injured. Not overwhelming at all. There's a narrative out there, false narrative, that if you engage in police reform, you will be sacrificing public safety, Engel said. At the very best, police reform efforts reduce crime and make the public safer. Okay. These days, Engel and her team from the University of Cincinnati are teaching de-escalation training programs to several law enforcement agencies in Oregon as part of a crisis response and intervention program sponsored by the BJA grant. They also were working with the state of New Jersey, which passed a law requiring all 55 100 of its local law enforcement agencies to report use of force data and to implement de-escalation training. Angle looks forward to analyzing the results. We're pushing this out in lots of spaces in the growing body of evidence that de-escalation training, if done properly, can make an officer's job safer. Okay, so that's it. Right, so I wanted to read more of her stuff here. So I went over to I hope all this is popping up here. Yeah. So I went over to Google Scholar and searched for Robert Engel, and these are a couple of articles that popped up. So here's one, and I picked on the first one here. Does de-escalation training work? Special issue article, Criminology and Public Safety and Public Policy. Does de-escalation training work? A systematic review and call for evidence in police use of force reform. Robert S. Engel, Hannah DeManis, Tamara Harold. 3 ladies, and I'm assuming that none of them at any time wore the badge, except for Robert Engel, who took over a police department, who, by her own admission, she had no idea what she was doing and had no idea of the training that went into it. De-escalation training, here's the research summary. De-escalation training has been widely implemented by U.S. police agencies in the wake of adverse public reaction to recent controversial police use of force incidents. Despite vast promotion from politicians, academics, expert panels, and the public, we know little about the effects of de-escalation training on officers and police-citizen interactions. In this article, we offer findings from a multidisciplinary systemic literature review that demonstrates limited knowledge concerning the impact of de-escalation training across all professions. We identified 64 de-escalation training evaluations conducted over a 40-year period, primarily in the field of nursing and psychiatry. Again, more controlled environments, more predictable environments. Not so much nursing, I would say, but you don't know. Nurses generally know if someone's armed, right? Someone can grab a knife or scalpel or a pair of scissors or whatever. But you don't know these options as police officers. You don't know who's armed and who's not armed. Will they have a knife or screwdriver? We don't know. Policy implications. Although assessment outcomes reveal few adverse consequences and provide some confidence that de-escalation training lead to slight to moderate individual and organizational improvements, conclusions concerning the effectiveness of de-escalation training are limited by the questionable quality of almost all evaluation research designs. And she's going to talk about this in the article. You really should go and read this article if you're really concerned about it. However, what she's talking about here is there's just an impossibility to really get this work done and really determine whether de-escalation training is effective in working. As such, important questions regarding the impact of de-escalation training for police remain. Given the critical impact of that de-escalation training could have on officers and the public they serve, we conclude that a direct call to academics, practitioners, and funders across the field of policing to prioritize as soon as possible the testing of de-escalation and other police use of force policies, tactics, and training. In other words, we just don't know. Right? Because the dynamics, how do you ever really know? How do you ever test? And I'm a social scientist myself, right? My degree is in psychology. I'm studying it right now. I'm working on my PhD, right? I should have it done, but no later than December, but hopefully I'll have it done by early September. We don't know. You don't know if there's no way to tell, right? We can't do experiments in which we walk into a house one day with this, and we use these de-escalation tactics, verbal judo, and it works. We don't know if tomorrow those same tactics, given the same parameters and everything, are going to work in those cases. We just don't know. It's extremely difficult to tell. It's extremely difficult to tell whether those same tactics are going to work, right? Because in some cases, right, the size of the officer is going to matter. Who's giving these commands and who's saying whatever, right? All of this matters, right? Female officers face less violent responses than male officers, right? A bigger officer may face lesser aggression than a smaller officer, right? All of this matters. All of this matters. So let's see. Here's something in my perf. So I'm going to have to go to these different websites here, PERF and the Police Executive Research Forum, and really take a look at this conversation in policing, some of these things. But so this is a fairly good article, right? She takes us through the history, right? All this different type of stuff. Case for and against de-escalation training for police. Many law enforcement leaders supporting the adoption of de-escalation training espouse that slowing down situations, using time, distance, and cover, along with other de-escalation techniques, can help resolve police-citizen encounters with less frequent and severe use of force, and that tactics increase officer safety. De-escalation techniques are now widely embraced by many police executives, leading the nation's largest police agencies, right? Campaign Zero, a ground of activists associated with Black Lives Matter, in a recent report examined the use of force policy of 91 of the 100 largest cities, use of U.S. city police departments, and showed that 34 of those departments require that officers de-escalate situations when possible before using force, right? But what does that mean when possible? When do we do that, right? When is time, distance, and everything like that going to matter? Should we let, and this has been the case that we talked about this in the case that I forget the young man's name, who was shot, I believe, down in the Atlanta, Georgia area, in which he had a taser. He took the officer's taser, and the officer shot him outside of a Popeyes or some kind of type of restaurants. When do we start letting officers not use force and have to run away, let people run away and drive away from us and run away from us, and we don't chase individuals and this, that, and the other, right? When possible matter? In this particular case that we analyzed with Roland Martin, this individual was giving a false information and would continue to do it. There's no doubt in my mind that he's going to continue to do it. He had a warrant. Did he turn himself in for the warrant? No, he didn't. Right? He's trying to get out of the warrant. He didn't want to go back to prison. Right? Probably looking at all this type of time, and there's no penalty for it. Politicians, policymakers, academics, and concerned citizens have joined the choir of support, demanding the adoption of de-escalation training with local police agencies, particularly after controversial police use of forces. Many cases right there. One of them is my man Seth Stoughton, 2014. As a result of large estimated percentage of fatal encounters with police where the suspect does not have a firearm, boldly predicted that such encounters, police killings, could be cut in half without compromising officer safety. He provided, I don't know who the he is, provided multiple recommendations to, Zimmering. He provided multiple recommendations to accomplish this reduction, including revisions to use of force policy, right? In other words, slow down, wait, use force only when necessary as a last resort, right? Impossible to measure, which likely would include the adoption of de-escalation practices. Similarly, Sherman, in his assessment of fatal police shootings as system crashes, called for additional research and police training designed to reduce the risk of avoidable shootings. Other research findings have demonstrated that other changes to use of police force training can result in reductions in the use of force. Okay, so here's what they did. Here's the methodology. Looks like they did a records check, download probably of tasers and police information, ineligible bibliography search, final coding, relevant evaluations, right? Going through all these different articles, study characteristics. I haven't read all this. I'm going to read it though. Beyond reporting the frequency of different research design employed by researchers in previous de-escalation studies, it is critical to consider the quality of the research designed to assess our confidence in making inferences from their findings, specifically findings regarding the effects of training produced from research from internal validity. Oh, this is kind of boring here. Content analysis, study outcomes, survey-based outcomes, all these different measures, behavioral outcomes, levels, discussion. Our multidisciplinary review of de-escalation training evaluation resulted in an identification of 64 studies with some supporting evidence reported, although this assessment is limited by the questionable quality of the individual research design. It's all problematic because you cannot indicate, you cannot replicate, You cannot replicate these specific desires, these specific commands. Does every single person who has this type of warrant, who has this type of criminal history, who's on this drug and who's on this, suffering from this mental disease, are they always going to respond to this type? No. Although this is assessment, overall, the limited quantity and quality of research studies in which de-escalation training is assessed across disciplines and professions is disappointing, especially given the critical impact that these trainings could have over the health, safety, and well-being of all involved and the potential volatile encounters between professionals and the persons they serve. Policing is not the only profession where innovations in de-escalation training are rarely tracked and tested. Yet recall the understanding of what we do know is still important in finding because it facilitates the discernment between real and assumed knowledge. For police executives seeking direction for the adoption of de-escalation policies and training to guide officer use of force, the findings from our review highlight similarities in curriculum across the disciplines that are promising. However, police executives need to enhance this body of research by testing de-escalation practices within their own organizations. And how precisely do we do that? We just had 64 multidisciplinary studies of surveys, of actual review of literature, review of body cam footage, review whatever they reviewed, right? We just did that. And we still don't have enough information about it. You cannot test the volatileness, the differences of use of force in different scenarios, the time of day, the weather. It's almost impossible to do this type of thing. What persons are charged with, what they ate for the breakfast that morning, what drug they're on, whether they took their medicine for the day. We don't know any of that. You cannot replicate this type of study. And this is the problem with all social sciences. It's the problem with all social sciences. The best we can make is some type of guesstimate. Most de-escalation training evaluations appear in nursing and psychiatric fields, which is unsurprising given the nursing is often a profession that requires the management of behaviors resulting from individuals who may be experiencing pain under the influence of drugs, alcohol, in crisis, or experiencing other emergencies, right? So these persons are you're automatically dealing with these persons when they're at their lowest when you're in the nursing field. They're in pain, they're on drugs or alcohol, they're in crisis, they're experiencing some type of medical or mental emergency. Absolutely. We don't know that in all the cases when on the street. We don't know who's homicidal, suicidal, many times we don't know whether they have warrants. We don't know. We don't know if they just robbed a bank. We don't know any of that information many of the times when we walk up on people. Likewise, the field of psychiatry involves the management of behaviors of individuals with intellectual development disabilities that may manifest into verbal or physical altercations. In both disciplines, there has been a continuous emphasis on the health, safety, and legal rights of patients, along with the increasing awareness of mental illness and the treatment like it is motivating changes in delivery of mental health services. Of course, you want to make sure that those people who are suffering these type of medical emergencies are taken care of. But in the police field, we also have to make sure that we not only care for the individual who are attempting to take into custody, but we also have to make sure that we don't hurt innocent bystanders. And of course, we have to make sure that we ourselves don't get injured. So those are two more factors that have to be taken into consideration. We don't know their mental illness and mental capacities. In some cases, sometimes we do know that this person is in crisis or suffering from whatever. These experiences are clearly applicable to the field of policing, not always. As first responders and the only professional group available 24 hours a day that can be counted on to make house calls, police officers are regularly involved in situations of human conflict and in crisis, emotional, physical, etc., in which action is needed. Can't just walk away, right? This is the problem that I have and so many other officers have with the concept of, okay, we're just going to not do anything, right? You can't just let people just walk away and run away and drive away and all this. You can't just let people do that all the time, which is why the words are important. Use less force when needed. But when is that when needed? In which action is needed? During these incidents, officers are often deprived of information and time. Look at that. Lending an atmosphere of crudeness and immediacy to the situations at hand. We don't have time to react. This is all high fluff words saying that we don't have time to react. That time-space dynamic is a real thing. We don't have time to always sit there and figure stuff out where people are plotting not only to escape, but plotting to kill us. Without question, providing these first responders the tools to create the space and time and facts needed to resolve these situations in a peaceful manner is ideal. But we don't live in the ideal world, do we? Unfortunately, the amount of available research across disciplines, although trending in support of de-escalation training, remains weak. Okay, I'm going to stop it right there. This is the situation. These are the situations that we're dealing with. I may cut this up and talk about why de-escalation training, does de-escalation training work? But that's it. From the Roland Martin situation to this, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. And let me know your thoughts, your opinions. And I'm going to break this up into two different ideas here. Much love and peace, everyone.